Now that I have the macro lens on here, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot some bear. Now that we have the macro lens on the ZV-1, we're going to shoot some insects just to help push the story forward. Let's look for some.
Hey, it's on your back.
Huh? Huh? Today, we're taking a field trip out into the woods, and we are going to do a nature cinematic B-roll sequence using the Sony ZV-1. Now, you can use whatever camera you have as long as it has manual exposure. I'm gonna tell you what I'm thinking about, what the settings are inside of my camera, and also some of the methods that I use while I'm shooting video. Because this is a nature cinematic video, we will be going through different angles and different camera moves. I will be going handheld with the ZV-1 because I don't have a gimbal, and also because I want to let you know that you can shoot handheld with the ZV-1. It just takes a little technique. Mark your attendance by hitting the like button, and for extra credit, leave a comment in the student discussion board below for anybody out there who might be struggling with the cameras. Let's go get our first shots. If you do have the ZV-1, make sure to pack enough batteries, especially when you come out to the woods, because you run out of battery pretty quick with the ZV-1. I use the first power batteries because they seem to last a lot longer than the stock battery, and they also have a higher MAH than the battery that the ZV-1 came with. I'll leave a link in the description for those batteries. The first shot that we're gonna do is a wide scene establishing shot, and then it's gonna quickly convert into a medium shot. So the way that we do that is we look at the entire landscape, and we might do like a slow dolly left or a tracking left shot, and then we'll go 30 feet up and we'll do the same exact tracking left shot. So we're gonna do a wide angle tracking left shot and then a medium tracking left shot. And then we will merge those two together, and those generally sync up very well in post-production. This scenery right here, like I said, I'm gonna do a track left, and then I'm gonna make sure that my skies are not in the screen because according to my zebras, it's a blown out sky. So I'm gonna keep my camera angled down to where you only see the trees. And then I'm gonna go 30 feet that way and do the same shot, same motion, and then I'll sync the two together. Now I have active stabilization on, and since I'm shooting a landscape, I wanna make sure that you can see that the camera has movement, so I'll put some foreground into the shot, and I'll make sure that I'm manually focused on the background. That way you can see the foreground moving, and it brings home the fact that the camera is moving. So I'm gonna focus on the back there, on the backwoods. I'm gonna switch it into manual focus, and now I'm just gonna slide to the left like that. See how you can see those weeds moving in the foreground? That way we're guaranteed to know that the camera is moving. I'm also not walking at all, so that is definitely going to help with the stabilization of my shots. All right, I'm gonna go 30 feet that way, and then I'm going to do the same shot. Okay, so here we are. I'm gonna make sure that this tree stays in the frame. That way you know the camera's moving. If the tree wasn't in the frame, it would look like the camera's still, and you wouldn't even be able to tell that I'm moving. Now I'm gonna move in the same direction as I just moved, which is a tracking left. So you gotta remember this stuff. It's like memorization at its finest when you come out here to shoot cinematic B-roll. Another thing that I did for that shot is I brought the camera up. And by doing that, I'm revealing more of the picture. I don't wanna bring it as low as it was before, because the experience and the reason why, the motivation behind that camera move and that opening sequence is to let you know kind of the environment that we're in. The next shot we're gonna do is a reveal shot. For all of the upperclassmen in this academy, you know this is my favorite shot, where you put something in front of the camera like a tree or a car, and then the camera slowly tracks to the left, and then the landscape is revealed. But in this shot, instead of doing our normal classical reveal to the left, we're gonna go from the bottom up, we're gonna do a pedestal up, and we're gonna reveal the landscape in an upward motion. I saw this log right here, which is blocking our path, and it's just asking to have a reveal done. So that's what we're gonna do. The key to getting a good reveal shot is to make sure you're manually exposed and manually focused. You wanna manually expose, because if you don't, it's going to expose for the tree or whatever's in front of the lens, and as soon as you pull the camera up to reveal the landscape, it'll re-expose for the landscape, and it just doesn't look good. So make sure that you're manually exposed and manually focused, and this is how I would get that shot. When I say manually expose, you have to expose for the background. The way that I do that is I just switch it over to manual focus, and then all I try to do is get my exposure compensation down to 0.0. And by doing this, I'm going to turn the ND filter on and bring my shutter speed down to like 1/50. And I'm gonna look for my exposure compensation to be at 0.0. And once I'm there, then I'm satisfied and I can just go ahead and start recording. Now I'm also gonna focus on the background and swap it over to manual focus. I'm shooting in 24 frames per second, 4K, so there's no slowing down in post. This should be fun. The next shot we're gonna do is kind of like a punch forward type of shot with the ZV-1. We don't have a gimbal and it would be pretty difficult to bend over and punch forward through this pathway. So I'm gonna throw the ZV-1 onto my tripod and I'm just gonna hold the tripod upside down. This is a classic grandpa trick before they came out with gimbals. I'm feeling a little risky, so I'm gonna go auto exposure and autofocus on this one. You can't have a good nature cinematic B-roll sequence without a macro shot. So I'm using the macro lens from the Ulanzi wide angle lens to get some macro shots of some of this nature, just to kind of help tell the story. So I'm looking for a spot where the sunlight is coming down and hitting the flowers. Like right here would not be good because that's in the shadow, but this one up here has a perfect sun ray right on it. And we have some soft sun coming because we have a little bit of overcast skies. So that's what I'm gonna go for. Leave it on autofocus and let it do the hard work. And with this macro lens, all you need to do is just make sure you get pretty close up. I'm not gonna do a camera move on this one. I'm just holding the camera still and letting the wind do the work of making the subject move. Now that I have the macro lens on here, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot some bear. Now that we have the macro lens on the ZV-1, we're going to shoot some insects just to help push the story forward. Let's look for some. Found one. Shoot, I always tell myself I need to get back into trying to make a nature documentary. Now we can't forget to do our sun flare shot. I look at this beautiful pine here and there's a sun right behind it. I'm not sure which sun it is, but it is a sun. And I'm just basically just gonna shoot my camera up there and then I'm going to move it over and let the sun just nail that lens. So I threw the wide angle lens on for this shot, just because it gives a little bit better of a flare than the stock lens on the ZV-1. Now a lot of people will tell you you cannot rack focus with the ZV-1, and they have a point there. There's no manual focus ring on the ZV-1, but I challenge you to this. Go ahead and switch it over to manual focus. Focus on whatever's in the foreground. Go ahead and press record, then switch it off of manual focus and touch the background. And then you have kind of like a digital rack focus. All right, so that concludes our field trip. Everybody go out there with your ZV-1s. You can practice for a little bit. Make sure to be back to the bus by 3 p.m. so that your parents can come pick you up from school. I'm Joe, your professor, and until the bus ride, have a good time. Oh, a butterfly. It flew away.